What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the pregame stream. It's Thursday Night Football. Been a while since the Ravens have had a primetime game, so this one should be a lot of fun. Now, if you're new to the stream or anything like that, before and after the game will go live, the benefit is it's primetime. So when we go live after the game, there's nothing holding us back from going however long we want to. It's not like there's other games going on or anything like that. So, Joshua, Ravens, Dolphins, what are you thinking? How are you feeling for this game?
Hey man, listen. Just to be able to play on prime time, our team is finally getting recognition. Granted, I don't like it. I like us to be under the radar, but at the same time, the Ravens going to do what they do best, and under the lights on prime time. Whether it's during the day or whether, during the night, the Ravens going to always show up. So I definitely feel like the Ravens going to do their thing, or it can always go to the Ravens' way. Of playing those close games or playing that comeback game. Honestly, knowing that my team can now come back, it's honestly put my heart at ease. Last week I was watching the game and I did not cuss, I did not fuss. I just waited till the magic really happened. So I'm looking forward to this game. I love that the Florida boys it's a homecoming for those guys, and I'm just ready to see everybody show up tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talked about it, the Florida guys. I see some Utah says 7 touchdowns for Lamar. He's basically playing in a home game. What's going on, King Ivo? How you doing? Daddy Bondrude says, I would love to see Bateman have a big game. And that also ties in with Chris Reed says he started Bateman in fantasy tonight. Let's talk about Rashad Bateman. This is the first game that we're getting to see the 3 wide receivers that the Ravens brought in to be their 3 wide receivers. Hollywood's playing with Bateman and Watkins. How is all of that going to work? Are we going to see it? Like, Hollywood has been the guy, we see him pretty much every snap. Yeah. Are we going to see any sets where it's Watkins and Bateman? Or is Hollywood going to be out there in every 2 wide receiver set? Like, what are you thinking for the way that the Ravens are going to shift through these wide receivers?
Honestly, I definitely can see the Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman out there. And if we do see that out there a lot, expect Hollywood to be in that slot. And if he's in the slot, it's going to be a hell of a game to watch because of the sets that they will run. Honestly, if I feel like if it's a passing night for Lamar, I definitely hope it is. I hope we go single back with our 3 wide receivers and just work out, man. We gotta. I know we're a run team, but having these guys, you gotta have these type of players on the field. Especially together because they help each other out so much in a way because you got one guy that can do this, you got another guy that can do that, and you got another guy that can do this. And right now, you put that against a secondary, not too many secondaries are going to know how to, stop 3 wide receivers in the same time. And then you gotta remember, we still have one of the best catching tight ends in the league as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing them guys all 3 on the field. But I definitely feel like we're going to see Rashad Bateman and Sammy Watkins out there on the 2 wide receiver set.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like the Ravens, I think having out there Bateman and Watkins allows them to give a different look in terms of whether or not they're going to be running the football or throwing. Because even though I'm a big fan of Hollywood, as a blocker, he's not amazing, but he is a great threat to scare the defense because I think Miami remembers the last time Hollywood played against them in his first career start. Went for over 200. I want to say it was 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, one of the most ridiculous first career games you'll ever see. I mean, the first 2 catches combined for 2 touchdowns on about 130 yards right there. So, he absolutely took the league by storm right from the jump. I see some people in the chat. How you doing, Abdi? How you doing, Yolanda? How you doing, Lisa? But Lisa asked a good question here, talking about Jacoby Brissett, who was named the starter. Because Tua is going to play the backup role. And really quickly speaking, on the Miami Dolphins, last time I remember this situation happening, I mean, it's also happening, I think, with the Jets. Mike White is supposed to be the starter, and I believe the rookie quarterback, Zach Wilson, is going to be the backup because he's recovering. Now, I remember when Jared Goff was recovering, and the Los Angeles Rams last year decided, no, we're not going to start you, Jared Goff. We're going to start, I can't remember who it was, and we're going to start this other guy. Now, the other guy got hurt. Jared Goff had to come in, and it was oh, yeah, he can play. And I think that shows that there are concerns with that quarterback, because if this was the Seahawks, who have Russell Wilson coming back from injury this week, like they're playing Russell Wilson. If they have Joe Burrow, they're playing Joe Burrow. I feel like that this shows a lack of confidence in Tua and how much they feel like they need him. So Jacoby Brissett, though, he's not a terrible quarterback. He's not an amazing quarterback. I think he's just a meh quarterback, which means he's not going to be a guy that I'm going to knock on wood here, that I don't think is going to go out there and be like, wow, Jacoby Brissett carried this team, put up a crazy performance. But he could go out there, similar to like a Teddy Bridgewater type, and just go out there and do what needs to be done with the offense. Make enough throws, do enough to get the job done. I don't think he's going to be a guy that loses the Dolphins this game. I don't think he's going to be a guy that wins them the game. I think he's going to put them in the positions that they feel like they need to be in. So Ravens just got to make sure that they stay cool and they don't have those big blunders that they've been having last couple weeks. Most notably against the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson just running behind the defense because there was a miscommunication between the safeties and Marlon Humphrey. So he's playing outside. He jumps the out route. Guy over top out of position. They're able to get that big touchdown. Just make sure that you don't have any blunders like that, and the Ravens should be able to get this job done. But what do you think about stopping Jacoby Brissett?
Well, I do. Everybody do have to remember Jacoby Brissett was Carson Wentz backup last year. Carson Wentz wasn't he was definitely dealing with injuries, but when it came to certain plays, they threw Jacoby Brissett in there because clearly he has an arm. We know what he can do. If you all watched him play at NC State, he is a decent quarterback. Even his New England days, he definitely can get the job done. But he's like you said, he's a meh quarterback. I mean, I want to say he's not a threat, but he can get you a win, a serviceable win. Only thing, like you said, the Ravens had to do, they got to tackle well, they got to get out there, make sure we're containing, that outside, stopping it, and actually, making some plays in that coverage, man. I actually was watching a podcast, and they said, would you trade Trayvon Diggs or get a lockdown corner? And the funny thing I got about it, one of the guys said, Trayvon Diggs remind me of Marcus Peters. Yes, he gives up big plays, but he still makes game-changing plays. So we need someone on the defense tonight to make some game-changing plays. I know we give up the big plays in regards to runs. Sometimes, the mishaps and the communication with the passing, but we need somebody tonight to really show out and really get to it. Because honestly, I feel like this can possibly be a big game for the defense, but the defense got to say, hey, the defense got to figure out which defense is coming out tonight. So play hard, play smart, and don't give in to the hype. I mean, Jacoby's a decent quarterback. He does have an arm. Just play him like you play any other quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think this is a game that the Dolphins are such an interesting team. They have a lot of playmakers on the defense, most notably Xavier Howard, but they also have Byron Jones, things like that. So, their defense is definitely what's going to keep them in games if they're able to pull them out. Mm-hmm. But offensively, they still have some weapons. Devontae Parker's a really good wide receiver, and I think he's getting overlooked because Tua doesn't really like to throw the jump ball and anything like that. He's good in jump ball situations. I know we talked about him a lot in the offseason as maybe the Ravens are trading Orlando Brown Jr. to the Dolphins to try and get back maybe a draft pick in Devontae Parker or something like that. They have Mike Gesicki, a really, really underrated tight end in the NFL. I think he's just in that same tier as a Noah Fant. That I don't really know the exact tiers, but that third, fourth tier tight end behind I would say Mark Andrews is in that second tier. He's playing a tier 1 this year.
Yeah, he got 530 yards. He's so far 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's playing very well. And then also Myles Gaskin as a running back. Decent running back right there. So they've got some good players that can go out and make plays. And I think they also have Will Fuller on their roster. I honestly never know the health of Will Fuller. So, if somebody can let us know how he's doing. I'm a big Will Fuller fan, but Ravens just got to make sure that they go out there and they just got to get some guys that make some plays. And speaking of guys that make plays, Mike Javier says, sucks that, Deshaun Elliott out for the year, but we do get to find out what we have in Brandon Stephens. And I think that's that's something that's really someone to look out for, because he was a guy that the Ravens drafted because he showed ball skills and a knack for going after the football. Like, that was the only reason why they drafted him. It wasn't because he was some lockdown corner at SMU. No, he was a former running back that transitioned to corner and played a year at corner. And they were like, you know what? We like what this guy has. We like the potential. He's a guy that we see every single week attacking the football, hitting the players. Now, does he make the tackle? A lot of times he doesn't, but he's still hitting them. And that's more than a lot of the other Ravens are doing. What do you think we see out of Brandon Stevens? It doesn't just have to be in this game, because this is just like one particular game, but like for the rest of the season, like, is he safety one for the Ravens, or, free safety one for the Ravens alongside Chuck Clark?
Well, I mean, I definitely start off by saying, it really does suck for Deshaun Elliott, because we've definitely been hoping and praying, for him to continue having success that he's been riding on. Yeah, I mean, we love what the young man does. We love what he brings, and finally seeing him for a full season, we was hoping he can duplicate that, but this is going to be harder for him now since his contract year. So I don't know how those conversations are going to go, but moving forward. Brandon Stevens, we talked about it. He already accepted the challenge of making the decision to, make the transition over to the defensive side of the ball to get into the college. And then, he played well enough to get drafted by a NFL team. And now he's been seeing playing time since day one, since he's been in the office. So, seeing what he can do, seeing that he can tackle, seeing that, he still has a long way to go in regards to, ball skills and stuff like that, but he's around the football. He's not scared to tackle. He knows how to go after it. Challenge for the season for him. Oh yeah, definitely it's going to be growing pains. I mean, we've seen it. Just continue to learn the schemes. Undercutting those routes and finally getting those interceptions. Once he started to really learn how to do that with that ball, get that ball awareness under him, Julian, things are going to be so much better for him.
Yeah, I think that I want to ask kind of an interesting question. At any point in his career, will Brandon Stevens ever line up on offense and take a snap at like running back or something like that? Super random. But like, do you think
like haven't did it this year?
I feel like the Ravens should throw him in on an offensive play. Like, get a trick play with Brandon Stevens going. Like I feel like that would surprise some people. Like, he can run the football. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's something that, like, at the goal line or something like that. Like, I feel like Brandon Stevens could be like hey, wow. Like, Deion Sanders played some offense in his career at Dallas because they were like, you know what? This guy's explosive with the ball in his hands. Let's get him the ball.
Everything that's been going on this year, especially with our running game, I wouldn't have mind a Nate McCurry, Brandon Stevens, Tyshawn Williams. I mean, hell, look at versus our old guys versus those three young guys. What worse could happen? Honestly, so I wouldn't mind saying that.
Yeah, I think that was, and I see Daddy Brownard says give him one of the Duvernay carries. Yeah, I also think Duvernay should line up in the backfield. I think the Ravens get too cute with it a lot of times, and they say, oh, let's run him on a jet sweep. Let's do that, which can work. Line him up at running back. He lined up at running back at Texas. Like, he's done it before. Like, just give him the ball in the backfield rather than saying, like, hey, run in motion, do all this stuff. Don't get too cute with it, because a lot of times he gets I feel like they get a little too cute trying to give him the ball, and they ran like that read option last week against the Vikings that didn't work because he was in the jet sweep, and it's like, if he just lined up in the backfield, they could do that. And the defense would be like, wait a minute, Devin Duvernay's in the backfield. Is he catching a pass out of the backfield? The dude's got great hands. Like, we got to cover that. All of a sudden, he's running the ball right up the middle, doing those things. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of different opportunities that the Ravens can go with for not just getting Brandon Stevens the ball, not just getting Devin Duvernay the ball, but getting anybody the football. Having Lamar Jackson allows you to do a lot of things to get your best players in situations where they have space and they're allowed to do what makes them great.
Now, since you bring that up, I know you heard what my boy Marcus Spears said in regards to his comp player. How do you feel about that?
Man, I mean, not a big LeBron fan, but I am I'm a big fan of LeBron James's game. I just, like, a lot of times I didn't like that he
I don't know. I just don't like a lot of stuff that he does. I love him. I love watching LeBron play. So, if you're getting on the court comparisons to LeBron, that's all good. They're very different off the court. And it's not about like a lot of the things LeBron does is great. Like the whole like he's great for like the community and everything like that. It's not that about LeBron. It's just I feel like he says a lot of stupid stuff. Like his whole thing, like getting OBJ out of Cleveland. He's like trashing the Browns. Like, bro, aren't you a Browns fan? Like, why are you hating on the Browns? Like, I don't know. He does a lot of stuff like that. But no, I mean,
he has a lot of influence. I will say that for sure.
Yeah, Lamar does everything. Lamar Jackson does everything, and that's something that he gets. I mean, a lot of people talk about moving the goalpost, which I think is 100% right. But I love the comparison in the everyone knows that LeBron James probably should have won MVP a lot because he is. Most years, he is the most valuable player to his team because he did everything. Now, later in his career, not as much so. But Lamar Jackson, I tweeted this earlier today. Let me find up the tweet exactly because I don't tweet very often. But I said people say the reason that Lamar Jackson isn't in the MVP conversation is because he isn't scoring touchdowns, right? I think Brady's at like 25 or 27 touchdown passes. Lamar's at like, let's see here. I'll go to it. Let's see what Lamar's at. Lamar Jackson has thrown for 13, and he has 2 rushing. And people are saying, like, hey, Lamar's not MVP because he's not scoring. The Ravens are 7th in the NFL in scoring. The reason why running backs are rushing for touchdowns, it's not because they're good. No disrespect to to the V's. I'll just call them the V's. No disrespect to the V's, but they're not that good. Lamar Jackson is the complete threat. And the defense, when the Ravens score with their running backs, it's because the defense is playing Lamar.
Yep.
Lamar's the reason behind that. Tom Brady is not the reason that Leonard Fournette rushes for 125 yards in a game and 3 touchdowns. Like, that's not Tom Brady. That's because Leonard Fournette is a good player and he's got a really good offensive line. Like, those are the things that Lamar's having, and they're still putting up points. And I'm not saying, like, Lamar is without a doubt the MVP. There's other guys in the conversation. Like, Brady's in that conversation. I don't think it's, Lamar, 100%. There's a lot of guys in that conversation, but, like, people are counting out Lamar because he's not scoring. He's the reason behind every single score. And Jones and Altitude says it perfectly. Just the threat of him running is enough. Like, teams are so afraid of the Ravens. They don't go out there and say, we need to stop anybody that's not Lamar Jackson.
Right.
They don't say we need to stop Hollywood. They don't say we need to stop Mark. Now, part of the way to stop Lamar may be, hey, let's force him to throw outside, stop the middle with Mark Andrews. But it's all Lamar. When you go against the Bucs, sometimes you're like, how are we going to stop Mike Evans? He's a monster wide receiver. How are we going to stop Leonard Fournette? How are we going to stop DeAndre Hopkins? How are we going to stop Stephon Diggs? Ravens, it's Lamar. When you play against the 2017-18 Cleveland Cavaliers, nobody's saying, how do you stop Isaiah Thomas? Or how do you stop Derrick Rose or Dwayne Wade? It was all, how do you stop LeBron? That was the guy.
Yep.
Whereas all these other teams are the Warriors, and it's like, how do you stop KD? How do you stop Steph? How do you stop Clay? How do you stop Draymond? The Ravens, it's LeBron. It's Lamar Jackson. How do you stop that one guy?
Yep.
We just got to hope that we don't go up against the Dallas Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki.
Not the unicorn, the original, the OG unicorn.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, they forget Lamar and Andrews, or not Lamar, Marquise and Andrews have had drops. Yeah, Lamar's had 150 yards and 3 touchdowns dropped by Marquise in one game. Like, people are like, oh, the Ravens played the Lions tight. That wasn't because Lamar didn't play well. That was because Marquise dropped 3 touchdowns, and that game would have been a complete demolishing annihilation. Marquise also dropped one. Who did he drop one against? Ooh, it wasn't the Cincinnati game. It was the week before Cincinnati. And it was the nice sideline, not the sideline. It was in the end zone. Lamar threw a perfect ball. Mark Andrews also had a drop last week against the Vikings. I think.
Yeah, that was right.
They're all blurring
basket,
together.
Honestly. That was literally in the prayer basket. We played the Chargers before Cincinnati, right?
Oh, well, it was the Chargers game. Marquise dropped it in the Chargers game. And it's like, and that's not to fault those guys. Guys dropped the ball. But when you're looking at Lamar and like his stats, it's like, it's very clear. I was talking with Matt on the Football Diary, and he said Lamar Jackson is the only quarterback in the NFL where he will go out there and just say,
we will score every drive for the rest of this game. Unless one of the other players on our team makes a mistake and turns the ball over or does something, we will score every single time. Like the Ravens will be down 14 and then it's like, oh yeah, we will not be stopped. And he's the only guy that just all of a sudden it just turns it on and it's like 4-minute offense. They will go down the field every single time and they will score. Because of Lamar.
And honestly, you got to have that dog. I mean, we talked about, those voices, those leaders and stuff like that. I mean, Lamar is not that guy that, you put in the middle of the huddle. I mean, maybe back in high school, maybe even back in college, but right now, he's more of that laid back. But when it's time to turn on, when he's probably, within the game, in game time moments, I mean, we see it. We see the emotions. We love what he does. We love what he brings. So, I mean, being him, it already makes it like, well, dang, because, growing up in Baltimore, especially Baltimore High School, my guys from Baltimore, y'all know about Dunbar High School, the Poets, and, in the early years when they had Tavon Austin. It's always how you stop Tavon Austin because he was such an electric player. It don't matter whether you thought you had him cornered, he will make a move on that sideline and have you look crazy. And that's the same thing Lamar has. He has that Tavon Austin effect. He has that LeBron James effect. Forget everybody else. I mean, yeah, we know Marquise. We know Marquise is AB's little brother. I mean, little cousin. But at the same time, we're not worried about this little dude. Oh, we know Mark Andrews. He's top 3 tight end in the NFL. But at the same time, yeah, we got to cover him. But that's not my concern. How we gonna stop that young man, number 8 in the backfield? We don't know if he's giving the ball or he's taking the ball, popping outside. We don't know if he's going to throw it. Sometimes we don't know. Oh yeah, we got the coverage sack. He ain't gonna do nothing. Oh well, damn, we don't got a QB spot. He about to break it upside the field. So it's so many things he does and so many things he brings. And I love the fact that this Ravens team that has now beat the narrative of, oh yeah, we can't come back. Well, guess what? Lamar did against Cleveland last year, and what we've been doing this whole dang season, coming back and winning games. Granted, we shouldn't have been putting ourselves in these situations, but for the fact that we've been doing this, hey, and let's not remember, Tom Brady had that same type of season one time too, where they started off slow, but what Tom do? When he gets to going, and he doesn't stop.
Adversity is one of the few common things between all sports championships. I mean, look at the most recent team to win a championship, the Atlanta Braves. They lost their best player to a season-ending injury. They lost one of their best players to a domestic violence incident. And like all these things, everybody's like, oh yeah, no, they're not that good. They're going to sell the whole team. Like they're going to trade everybody away. And they said, no, we're going to go out there and we're going to win the championship. And we're going to trade for some guys. They won the championship. The Ravens, for the first time, or not the first time, but definitely regular season, I feel like the first time that they're facing that adversity. Now, they faced adversity, obviously, after they lost to the Chargers, after they lost to the Titans, but that's off season. Like, that's not something where, like, that's the whole team together. The Ravens added new players after they lost to the Chargers. Who'd they add? Oh, they added Marquise Brown, their number 1 wide receiver. Who'd they add after they lost to the Titans? They added a lot of players. They add who did they draft? I can't even remember who they drafted in the first round 2 years ago. Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison. They go out there and they draft them, and it's like and Devin Duvernay and James Prochet. Like they're adding all these guys, and like they're not feeling that adversity that the whole team felt. The whole team right now is feeling that adversity, and they all went. The Ravens didn't trade for any star players. They all went through the same thing. They all had to watch Gus Edwards get hurt, J.K. Dobbins get hurt, Marcus Peters get hurt, Deshaun Elliott get hurt. The Ravens just get demoralized in overtime against the Raiders. The Ravens get demoralized by AFC North rival, the Cincinnati Bengals. But they also got to experience all those great things in the comeback against Indianapolis, the comeback against the Kansas City Chiefs, the comeback against the Vikings. All those things, the Ravens are all experiencing it, and that's going to build that chemistry, and that's going to build the momentum that they're going to be able to ride if they try and make a postseason run. Now let's talk about some
Lamar Jackson stuff. Lamar Jackson, or All 22, another Ravens YouTuber, shout out, makes a good point. Lamar has to move so much more than any other quarterback. I feel like his errant throws sometimes might be due to exhaustion. Thoughts? I don't think it's due to exhaustion. Now, I will agree Lamar Jackson does move more than I think any other quarterback in the NFL. However, I don't think it's due to – I just think it's like there's just so many times where he's throwing off balance and all this stuff. And I'm not saying, oh, don't throw off balance. Like, no, most of the time when he's making errant throws, it's because he has to throw off balance because he's getting pressure, he's getting hit, all these types of things. The line's just not good. He's having to step up, calmly stepping up and making that throw. Sometimes it's in like the jump, but sometimes he's just on one foot. He's like on the run, mid-run throwing. Most quarterbacks can't make those throws. No quarterback can make those throws every time. The best ever at it, his name's Aaron Rodgers. Not everybody's Aaron Rodgers. And Lamar does a pretty darn good job of throwing on the run. So I don't think it's anything to be concerned with. I just think it's just very difficult to throw on the move. Like, it's probably the most difficult thing a quarterback can do when throwing the football is throwing on the move, unless you want to say like some stupid type of pass where it's like, oh, well, actually, if they're throwing no look cross body, it's like, okay, but just don't throw no look cross body. That's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
This is necessary stuff. What do you think, Joshua? Is it because he's tired? Maybe it is. I mean, I'm not saying it's not like it couldn't be right. Like maybe he's tired up from it, but I think he's a good enough athlete to where he's not tired from that stuff.
Honestly, I don't think it's coming from exhaustion. At the end of the day, like we said it before, he has that LeBron James effect. Tom Brady, he's extending the play. Well, Patrick Mahomes, we know him to run a damn near all game for his life. But what he do extends the plays. What do his wide receivers do? They make themselves available. So I mean, I definitely don't see his exhaustion. Now, I would take it one step further, but I definitely would take it this step further. Once he, some of these interceptions and things like that, I do feel like those are frustration throws because he's so ticked off during mid game of how things are going. He could be ticked off because how the offensive line playing. He could be ticked off because his guys are not getting open. If he did, he thought he may saw something, but in split seconds, whatever you thought you saw can go away real quick. I mean, hell, that happened in the playoff game against Buffalo. That happened in the Chargers game when we had Rashad Bateman on the crossing route. So those things happen. I mean, even with I forgot what team it was, the Raiders actually, with Sammy Watkins hit the button hook and he slipped and fell.
Yep.
So I
think that was the Chiefs, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, those things happen, and you can tell, during the game he's very frustrated because he's still trying to make plays. He's still trying to get the win. And honestly, I know Lamar is under the criticism. He's being, always scrutinized. He's always being looked at and things like that. I applaud him for keeping this personal life to himself because that would be a whole nother realm that they will try to dig into and try to tear him down. So, I applaud him on that. The only thing these, announcers at ESPN, beat writers, only thing they can do is tear him down is on his gameplay. So, I know he hears the talk. I know he hears the narrative. So he frustrates me when he tries to be this pocket quarterback. Yes, I know you did that at Louisville. I know you got your Heisman Trophy from doing that, and even with the RPOs. But at the same time, you're gonna get more respect, more love by doing what you do, but doing it better. Since you now understand the game is slowed down for you, and you are having fun doing it. You just got to continue having fun doing it. I know you're going to get hit. I know you're going to get sacked. But hell, instead of trying to wait for your guys to extend the route, extend the play, man, you got 5-10 yards if you cut it up to that left side. Because Villanueva is going to be in that backfield with you. You never know if Zeitler's going to be holding someone, or you don't even know what right tackle is going to be there to really protect you. Sometimes you just got to get up, get on your horse, and go. Sometimes, just to save yourself. Because now everybody's worrying about the big hits. I mean, y'all heard the mic up. He got hit. He got hit by 4 or 5 people, and what did he do? He was laughing under the pile.
Yeah, I mean, having fun is something that, especially with the way that Lamar Jackson plays, the way that this team functions, this team's about having fun. right? I mean, that's been the whole motto. It hasn't been a team that's like, oh, all business. No, like they're going to go out there and they're going to celebrate. They're going to have a good time. And that's what this team is built on. And so making sure that Lamar Jackson is still, and that's what he's been doing this year. That's why they're coming back. They're coming back because they believe in each other. They believe in him. And I want to talk really quickly about these comebacks because I see a lot of comments in here talking about, man, the Ravens, why can't they just blow somebody out?
Yep. Y'all got to be the new fans. Y'all not the fans from way back when.
Like, my thing is, like, it's great to blow teams out. Now, I always root for a blowout. But I think the best comparison, I'm sorry, it has to be the NBA. A lot of people said why the Milwaukee Bucks could never win the championship and get it done in the playoffs was because this is obviously before last year when they won the championship, was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. What happened? They were blowing everybody out. They'd be coming into games favored by 25, 30 points, and they would win by 25, 30 points. And then they get to the playoffs, and they just hadn't been in those close games. They hadn't been in those tight games. They hadn't been losing by a ton. And it's like they just didn't seem to know how to react. The Ravens now know exactly how to react.
Yep.
Like they know how to, if they are blowing somebody out, they know how to continue and hold that lead. Okay. Look at the Chargers game. Look at Lamar Jackson every game of his career up until this year. I mean, the Ravens know how to blow people out with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. It's all about, in those close games, it's not about like whether or not the Ravens couldn't do it. It's just whether or not they had the experience doing it. And now they actually have that experience in being in those close games, needing those stops. Oh, they didn't score in the first drive of overtime. That defense needs to stop on the Vikings. They get it. Like those types of things, like builds you confidence moving forward in your team. So like, obviously it sucks to be down, but it just gives the team more faith because they are being in more and more situations that prepare them for the playoffs. Because last year in the playoffs, Ravens down in Buffalo, they looked like they didn't know what to do. They did not look like they knew what to do. And then all of a sudden this year, I feel like if they're down to Buffalo in the playoffs by, 10 points, I feel like they know what to do.
I definitely agree. That's what I'm saying. It's that loss to Cincinnati. I'm glad it happened early.
Yeah.
We know what we need to fix on. We know what we need to correct. It wasn't one of those Cincinnati games that we needed to win to help us get into the playoffs. It was early. Early in the season, we see what we needed to do. Now the question is, once we meet up with them again, can we split it? Split that 1-1, or Cincinnati goes up on us? I definitely feel like, we will come back with a vengeance, hoping so. I mean, this is just this is the second most resilient Ravens team I've seen. The first one, in my opinion, was the 2012 Super Bowl. Because, like I said, they had about 16, 20 guys on the IR list as well. I mean, hell, the Mile High Miracle. We had little Ray up the middle, the diddle play with AQ knocking out two defenders, as the best blocking wide receiver I didn't seen, So I mean, and all that. And even in the Super Bowl with the lights going out.
Oh yeah.
So, Ravens has always been battle tested, and honestly, under Lamar, he's learned from every battle. This team has fought with them, so I definitely feel like this team is going to continue fighting with them. We never know. It might be a Rams versus Ravens Super Bowl this year. I'm not counting the Bucks out, not at all. But of course, I gotta go with my guys, man. I gotta go with my guys. We've been fighting real hard this year. This narrative that's being written right now, as McConnell would say, it sounds like an MVP season. Maybe an MVP season along with the Super Bowl win. So you never know.
Absolutely. And thanks so much, Sick Kicks, for the super chat. It says Lamar Jackson is getting recognized for the MVP tonight. I think this is the perfect time. I mean, we talked about it before the season. How do you get recognized for MVP? Primetime performances is the biggest one.
Most definitely.
In big time games. Ravens playing in primetime. It's the worst primetime game. It's Thursday night, but it's still primetime. Like that, I mean, that's the only thing that you can do. So, like, obviously, Lamar Jackson had the big primetime win against the Chiefs.
Yep.
big primetime comeback against the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
But he had the loss against the Raiders. Benefit is week 1, if you're looking at MVP case. If you lose week 1, and they lost in overtime, and anybody that watched that game knew that they were only in that game because Lamar Jackson was carrying that team so hard. And that was a week where they weren't running the read option because their running backs had no experience with Lamar and they couldn't do it. So it's literally just a baseline playbook because they couldn't really run their actual offense. But now it's like, okay, we're getting into mid-season. Ravens got one more primetime game after this. They play the Cleveland Browns in primetime. It's the only other one. Gotta make a statement if you want to win the MVP. But the thing is, Lamar doesn't care about winning the MVP. If the Ravens win by 35 points tonight and Lamar Jackson only has 1 touchdown, he does not care. If the Ravens win by 1 point and Lamar has no touchdowns, he doesn't care. If the Ravens lose by 3 points and he puts up 25 touchdowns, the Ravens lose like 185 to 188, he's going to be upset. Because like all that matters to him is getting that win. Like, so yeah, like I would love for him to win the MVP and things like that. I'm rooting for it. You know, I'm campaigning for it. It's not something that he's campaigning for, not something that the Ravens organization is campaigning for. They're just trying to win football games. And how do you win football games with the Ravens? You use Lamar Jackson, whether it's as a decoy and letting the running backs get to work, or it's as a dynamic passer that he is and allowing him to go for a Jackson 5 like he did the last time he was in Miami. But what do you think, Joshua? Let's talk about Lamar. Is he putting on an MVP performance tonight?
Man, listen, you know, this damn season he's been putting on the MVP performance, just, you know, carrying the team the way he did. So, you know, I feel like he's going to continue doing that, you know. I feel like, you know, he's going to have another 300 passing, 100-yard rushing game tonight, honestly, in my opinion. So, he definitely going to show out. And then on top of that, you know, he home. You know, it's homecoming. So, he definitely going to show out. You know, we all know how that goes. They get back in this city. Especially, you know, it's almost like an NBA game. Sometimes you get traded from your team, or sometimes you go back home in your hometown. You gotta show out. You know, family gonna be there, cousins gonna be there. You know, the guys around the way, whoever, they all gonna be watching. So you know you gotta put on a show. So listen, we already know how Lamar coming, man. He coming 100%. All gas, no brakes. He wants all the smoke.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just one of those things that, like, we got to look at it as, how's he going to be able to do it? Sick Kick says 4,000 yards, 1,000 rushing yards, win the North. I'm going to say, and be a top. I'm going to say he needs 4,500 passing yards, most likely. But I also think that the Ravens, if he has 4,000 and 1,000 rushing and the Ravens are the 1 seed in the AFC, I think that wins it for him. If the Ravens aren't the 1 seed, I think he needs 4,500 yards. But I mean, I think that both of those are very possible.
I think it's very possible. Down to those total yardage, man. I mean, he has more total yards out of 17 NFL teams. So, I mean, if he keeps on stacking up on that, I feel like that's a no-brainer. One player just having more yards than out of 17 teams in a 32 team NFL league, I don't know. That's huge. That's a statement right there. So I mean, it definitely can go a lot of different ways, honestly.
Yeah. All right, we got about 5 more minutes. And LJ going home to Florida. Not just LJ.
Yeah,
I mean, we got all the Florida boys going back down there. Hey, heck, even maybe we get Tyler Huntley showing.
Hey,
there we go. Yeah.
Hey, I'm for all that. I'm for all of it, man. I love it.
Like I think that let's give our predictions though. Game starts in 10 minutes, so we'll have the stream wrap up before then. So let's start with offensive bold predictions, Joshua. What are you thinking for this game?
I got Rashad Bateman with 2 touchdowns and 140 yards.
Okay.
Off the rip.
There we go. I love it. I think that's something that would be, I mean, that would be so much fun to watch. I dropped him in fantasy this week, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Ravens fans. I'm sorry. I had to pick up Odell. He was on waivers. I had to get him. I had to get Odell. Also, I don't know why my camera's being all fuzzy right now. I'm sorry. I dropped down to pick up my pencil that I dropped, and now it's all fuzzy because it zoomed in on the wall. and I can't edit it. But yeah, so my offensive prediction, I'm going to go with last week. Last week I was right. I said 250, 100 game for Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Stepping it up. I'm going with 300, 100, and the first ever Jackson 6.
Okay.
Now, they may not all be passing.
Most definitely. He's going to show out.
Very, very bold. And I think a lot of Ravens get involved. I think Bateman gets one.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dev gets one. I think Hollywood gets one. I think Mark gets one. And I'm gonna say we get a Le'Veon one.
I like that.
But defensively now, what are you thinking? What's your bold prediction?
I'm still going with my pick 6 fumble recovery. Pick 6, I'm giving it to Brandon Stevens. Fumble recovery, I'm gonna go ahead and give it I'm gonna give it to away because we haven't heard his name a lot. We haven't heard his name a lot lately. So I feel like he's gonna wake people up and say, "Hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here." So I definitely see away with the scoop and score.
All right. For me, I'm going to say history is going to repeat itself. Last time the Baltimore Ravens played against the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. No, I'm not talking about Kiko Alonso coming out and taking out Lamar Jackson from the game. That's not the history that's repeating itself. I'm talking about a young Baltimore Ravens linebacker getting himself a pick 6. Back then it was CJ Mosley. This week his name's Patrick Queen.
Okay. I like
and
that.
We get the I see Lisa says Pat Ricard 3 touchdowns. That's awesome. That is a top tier prediction right there.
Listen, that happens, I'm all for it.
Oh my goodness. That would be so funny. But yeah, I think Patrick Queen, I think this is the best game of Patrick Queen's career. I think that right now is what I'm saying. And I think that includes a pick 6. But this is the biggest game Patrick Queen's going to play in his career so far.
Being at that well, it really helped. It's really helping PQ a lot, honestly. So yeah. I definitely can see it happening.
And I mean, he could do it in a lot of ways. It could be a tipped by Calais Campbell.
Yep.
It could be a hey, he was covering Mike Gesicki and he just made a play on the football and he used his athleticism to take it home. Like, I also see, Utah says, remember when Earl Thomas played his first game in Baltimore? Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think that was the first drive that the Dolphins had. Ryan Fitzpatrick hit that through that pass. He threw a seam route. I want to say it was to Devontae Parker. Overthrew him a little bit. Earl Thomas came in, got that pick. But yeah, those are my bold predictions. But now let's get into the score predictions. Are you going to maintain the Ravens? What is it, 137-16 in the last 3 games? What's the score prediction for this game?
I got 35-14.
Okay. Is it a Tyler Huntley day at 35-14?
No, I feel like the boys is home. I feel like Lamar gonna want to play the whole game.
He's like, nah. Sorry, Snoops. You ain't getting in this week. This is my week. You know what? I've already predicted that it's gonna be a Jackson 6. So I'm gonna say. I'm going to go with a big time performance from the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh. Talk to him.
I'm going to say that the Ravens put up a ridiculous 56 points.
My heart.
56.
Don't get the new Ravens fans, you feel me? Don't get suicidal now. Because they got to understand, it can go one of two ways.
And then I think the Dolphins put up. I really want to say a shutout, but I'm not going to say a shutout. It's just that's just too much. I'm going to say that they get themselves 10.
I mean, honestly, I look at the injury list. Devontae Parker is on IR. Will Fuller is on IR too. So I don't know.
You know what? I'm doing it 56-0. Okay.
Allen Hurns,
the shutout.
Allen Hurns is IR. Lynn Bowden Jr. IR. So, hey,
The
I
Patrick
don't know
Queen
what
pick
the wide
six,
receivers.
the Jackson 6. It's all happening. Okay. Ravens putting up, how many touchdowns is that? 8 touchdowns?
Yeah. No. 9. Wait a minute. I'm gonna do my
I think it's 8.
8 times
8
756.
touchdowns.
My bad, y'all. My bad.
1 pick 6 in them, 6 from Lamar. Still got an extra rushing touchdown somewhere. Someone else can't. Maybe it's another defensive touchdown, but I'm thinking monster showing for the Baltimore Ravens.
Honestly, it would be good for the team. Honestly.
Watch the Dolphins kick a field goal or something on the first drive, and I'm gonna be like, darn it, they lost it. They lost it.
Hey man.
This is the first time I think I'm predicting a blowout anywhere near this.
This season. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever predicted the Ravens will put up 40. So me saying 56 is kind of a lot, but I think that's going to do it.
I look at the entry list, man. I'm not
45-14, 35-17. I saw it. I mean, most likely it's a pretty close game or like a 10-point game or something like that, but I'm going for the bold, okay? Because if the Ravens do blow them out like that, it's going to be ridiculous.
Most definitely.
But all right, guys. I think that's going to do it for the stream. Game starts in a couple minutes. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Make sure to come in after the game. Hold me to the final score. Because when it is 56-0, you guys will be like, wow, that was amazing. That was ridiculous. I got it right against the Chiefs. I'm hoping it happens again. All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. We'll see all of you after the game.